Please be upstanding for the procession. Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Laytow. I am the academic principal here at Sheridan, and this evening I'm also your MC. It is with great anticipation that we gather here for our Sheridan graduation ceremony for the 2020 cohort. For our students who are graduating, we want to acknowledge not just your hard work over recent years, but also your endurance as you have experienced challenges along the way, not the least of which was the year COVID-19. And as I was thinking about this, and sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself. Darren, could you just move the mic and the music stand for the moment, please? We'll put them back at the end. Thank you. I can't quite see everybody. Teachers like to see everybody. I was thinking it's not just the journey of your study and the challenges along the way. I was thinking we've had some babies added to the family. Hands up our graduating students. Who's had a baby in the time that you've been studying with us? Whose babies are here tonight? Yay. We've had some of you be models for some of our promotional material. Hand up if you feature in some of our promotional material. Fantastic. It's been a really lovely journey, and tonight we are here to celebrate your achievements. Well done. I'm now going to invite our Executive Principal, Mr. Darren Smith, who's going to give the official welcome. Thank you, Darren.
Well, welcome to the Sheridan 2021 graduation ceremony. May I extend a special welcome to our keynote speaker, Mr. Peter Abetz, who is the State Director of Australian Christian Lobby and the Deputy Mayor of the City of Gosnells, to Mr. Michael Smith, the Chair of the Sheridan Board of Directors, other Sheridan board members, ABE staff, Mr. Daniel Nazima from Mate in Oz, and our education partners and agents, including West One, Marriott and Agent High, staff, students, friends and family members who may be watching from afar. When you walk out tonight as graduates of Sheridan, things are starting to look pretty good. There are vaccines being rolled out, the borders are opening up, unemployment is down, which means there's more competition, there's more jobs available, and hopes are being realised. It's easy to forget last year, almost to the day, is when the lockdown started in Western Australia. One impact of that lockdown was our 2020 graduation ceremony, which was postponed to October. And that meant that in the delayed ceremony, some members of your cohort had their graduation a few months early. What it does mean, however, is it allows me still, for one more year, the privilege of being able to name you one by one. Mihak, Priyanka, Harpreet, Diane, Murugesh, Surinder, Navdeep, Emma, Memo, and of course Jignesh and Vicky, who couldn't be here tonight. And Nomalunga. Congratulations on your achievement. Hope is a powerful thing. when the shadows fell last year, when the pressure came on, and that pressure was intense, you did not give up. You stayed the course. So this ceremony is to honour you. Your achievement, your hope, and your perseverance has seen you through. Sheridan, this place that you've been studying, is a place that is saturated with hope. The academics and staff, as you know, as Christians, are united by the hope that peace with God is possible through faith. You may not know this, but the logo for Sheridan has a stylised eagle's wing. It comes from Queen's Baptist College, whose motto is "On Eagle's Wings," which in turn comes from the words of one of Israel's prophets, which you studied in Survey of the Bible, quite possibly. And the verse goes like this: "Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings as eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." So today, when you receive your award from Sheridan, every time you look at that shield, at the wings of the eagle, the word I hope it speaks to your heart is a word of hope. That as long as you're alive, you can breathe and turn and face whatever comes your way. But if looking at the shield doesn't get you across the line, just come back and breathe the air at Sheridan again for a little while. You are always welcome. We'll be here to encourage you and to pray for you. You are Sheridan alumni now. This part of the story of your life and ours has been written together. It's a connection that doesn't go away when you finish your studies. You have imprinted yourselves on our hearts, and I hope we have on yours. We are proud of you. And before Dr. Leitao comes up again, I have one last request for you. Tomorrow, and for as long as God gives us, I hope many hundreds of years, students will be taught at Sheridan. As students, you are the ones best placed to remember the pressure, the feelings, the moments of discouragement, the uncertainties. If your hopes in life are achieved, please accept an invitation to come and share your story with those students who are continuing. Strengthen them and encourage them on their way, and in doing so also become a participant in the community of hope that is Sheridan. Dr. Leitao is going to come up now and lead us in the next part of the ceremony.
Thank you, Darren. As a faith-based organisation, we recognise prayer as being a way to actively seek God's presence. And we believe it is an opportunity for us to tell God what is on our hearts and for us to listen to God for his guidance and insight. I'm inviting Miss Alison Dench, we know her as Ali, to come and lead us now in a devotional dance. A devotional prayer.
What was it that we were drinking an hour ago before it was just Fanta and lemonade, but it's the bubbles, I think, they got to Natalie's head a little bit. Jesus said, "I am the world's light. No one who follows me stumbles around in the darkness. I provide plenty of light to live in." Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for these beautiful students. They're about to step out into the world in a new way as graduates of Sheridan. The decisions they make in their personal lives and business ventures, as most of them are business students, will either bring them closer to your light or take them further away from it. I pray that they will desire more peace, more truth, more justice, and more freedom, which is really more of your Son, Jesus. Whenever they find themselves in awkward, heavy and dark situations, please remind them that the light is only a prayer away. Bless them abundantly. Make room for them in a competitive workforce. Continue to lead them into a fulfilling life. And thanks for the privilege of sharing this part of the journey with them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ali. Now, I'm delighted this evening to have Mr. Peter Abetz joining us. Peter began his working life as an agricultural officer in Tasmania and then trained as a church minister, and he served in Victoria and in Western Australia. He entered politics in 2008 and has been involved in both local and state levels, and he's currently WA Director of Australian Christian Lobby. Now, Peter, it's surprising what you can find out when you Google somebody's name. I was puzzled that Zoom Info website says that you're also a computer science associate instructor at a college in California. No, I didn't think so. I suspected that bit wasn't true. But I did read that your interests span organic gardening, Volkswagens, and family values. So tonight, Peter is going to deliver our keynote, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Peter.
Yes, all people have to have some vices, and my vice is the love of old combis. So I'm not sure whether the overseas students know what combis are, but they're very old Volkswagens. So great. Look, just would like to acknowledge the board members and principal staff and students, and say what a privilege it is to be invited to present the keynote address. Now, I've got to put this timer on so I don't go too long, because if you've been a preacher for 25 years and a politician for 8, you love to talk. So I just want to make sure I don't go too long. Oops. It's already going beep beep. It's not doing the right thing. Perhaps the battery's flat. I don't know. That might just be providential, mightn't it? Well, I just want to say gaining knowledge is a wonderful thing. And I'm sure that I say that as a person who spent 8 years in tertiary education. I first did a 4-year agricultural science degree at Tas Uni, and then went on to do honours, and I worked as an agricultural scientist for about 6-7 years. Then I went off to theological college and I studied for a Bachelor of Divinity, 4 years full time, and that opened up for me a whole new world, because having embarked on a science kind of trajectory, things like history and philosophy were very foreign to me. And so studying Old and New Testament introduction and church history and so on, it all helped make the Bible come alive for me in a new and dynamic way. And those of you that are graduating here today, I'm sure that you enrolled in these courses because you wanted to gain knowledge and understanding in the field of your study. And the more that I've studied and the more I've experienced of life myself, I've come to realise that the more I get to know, the more I realise how little I actually know, because there is just such a vast amount of knowledge to be gained. And I'm sure that we all would agree that the idea of continuing to gain knowledge is a very positive thing to do. And often we hear that we should be lifelong students. And so I just want to encourage you as you graduate today to not think of this as having arrived, but rather as a milestone along your journey of learning. And to make the pursuit of knowledge worthwhile, there has to be such a thing as truth. If there's no such thing as objective truth, then the pursuit of knowledge would be simply a chasing of the wind. And the pursuit of knowledge, and hence the valuing of education, has been very much a hallmark of Western civilization, Western society. But what we need to realise is that the pursuit of knowledge has actually not been part and parcel of every culture in history. In fact, the pursuit of knowledge requires a foundation from which to work. And many ancient cultures believed that everything around about them was controlled by unpredictable gods, capricious gods. And so everything was determined by what the gods would do. So there was no rhyme or reason, no cause and effect. That was all foreign in many cultures. So there's no point in trying to understand the weather or diseases. Life simply was lived at the mercy of these capricious gods, unpredictable gods. But thanks to the influence of Judeo-Christian thought, Western civilization, a very different view developed, which gave rise also to what we nowadays call the scientific method. The Western world's view of reality was shaped in a very large part based on biblical views, the kind of teaching that the Bible presents. And my understanding is that Sheridan, what you've been taught has come from a Christian world and life view based on that. And that view of reality is that God has actually chosen to make himself known in nature and in his written word, the Bible, and of course the Bible also contains the story of the living word, Jesus Christ. And this led in turn to the realization that God is in fact a God of order, and that God gave laws or created laws, built laws into his creation, and that he works things according to those laws. And so God is not a capricious God, unpredictable God, but he works on the basis of the natural law that he's actually built into the creation. And because he is God, what he says is true. And this led to the Bible being accepted as the primary source of truth in Western thought. But there was also recognition there's lots of things that are worth knowing, but which are not talked about in the Bible. So what developed was the realization that we need to use the principles of Scripture, of Bible, and apply those using our God-given human reason to explore things and to develop things, develop our understanding. And so God's revelation and reason were the two, if you like, sources of truth, of knowledge. But then in the 17th and 18th century, where there was a growing attempt to push God out of the picture, to get rid of God and rely on reason alone. That intellectual movement, as some of you would know, is known as the Enlightenment. It rejected the idea of God. They didn't want God. They wanted to figure everything out for themselves. Sounds very much like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They wanted to decide what was right and what was wrong rather than listening to what God had to say. So there's nothing new under the sun in some ways. But the problem for those who advocated relying on reason alone was that they still needed God somewhere, because where did we come from? What's the origin of things? And that led to what's called deism, the idea that God just created everything, and those of us that are old enough to remember the old alarm clocks, you used to wind them up and put them on the mantelpiece. That's how they viewed the world, that God created things, put it on the mantelpiece and walked away and kind of takes no more interest in how it ticks along. And then along comes Charles Darwin, and he posited his hypothesis that life originated from some random chemical reactions billions of years ago, and given enough time, life evolved and developed. And even though there was really no basis for, no supporting evidence for that idea, those who wanted to get rid of God and to rely on reason alone, they loved that concept and embraced it and took it on board very quickly. But one of the things I hope your education has taught you is that ideas have consequences. All ideas have consequences. And that is, if we evolved out of some primordial chemical soup billions of years ago through some random chemical reactions, then, as Steve Dawkins says, life cannot possibly have meaning. There's no such thing as moral values. They're just simply things that human beings make up. And certainly no such thing as absolute moral values. And that in turn led to people like Nietzsche, the philosopher, his ideas which Hitler then took on board and justified wanting to eliminate what he termed an inferior race. because he wanted to help evolution along and eliminate something that's inferior. And we shudder and we all say that's evil. But if we actually don't believe that God created us, and if we don't believe that God has written his laws into the creation, who is to say anything is right or anything is wrong? There is no basis for that. And this secular humanist view of the world, based on the assumption or the presupposition that there is simply only the physical realm is the only thing that's real, and that all of reality is simply the physical world, that creates a problem, because it means that they're actually saying there is no such thing as the spiritual realm, and that secular humanism, along with cultural Marxism, have very much become the dominant philosophy that permeates our universities in Australia. Both of them reject that there's any other dimension to reality other than the physical world. So they deny the reality or the existence of the spiritual realm. But it's interesting that every culture in the world is religious. Secular humanists, of course, claim that they're not religious, but atheism is actually a form of faith as well, because it's grounded in the belief that there is no spiritual realm. And the reason that it's actually a faith position is that logically you cannot prove something by simply assuming that it doesn't exist or denying something's existence. And sadly, secular humanism, cultural Marxism have increasingly dominated our Western education more and more, to the point that many people now think that's actually the normal or the neutral way of thinking. And increasingly we're seeing secular humanists claiming that anyone who doesn't share their view of the world should not have a right to participate in the public discourse to shape our laws and our culture, which really is nothing other than bigotry. And what is bigotry? Bigotry is simply refusing to accept that or tolerate that other people are entitled to have a different view to your own. And the biggest enemy of the pursuit of knowledge is actually bigotry. And sadly, we're seeing this creep in more and more in so many of our academic institutions in this country. Of course, not at Sheridan. I want to make that very clear, just before you come and lynch me. But sadly, there is this creeping in more and more in our academic institutions. And we see it displayed in what's often referred to as cancel culture, where people are simply not prepared to debate ideas anymore, but they just simply shout you down or deplatform you, as they say. See, the reality is that every single person has a worldview. There is no such thing as a person who does not have a worldview. We all do. And our worldview is based on our core beliefs. Everybody has some core beliefs, if you like, presuppositions that they operate from. And it's our core beliefs that shape our values shape our actions, and the collective actions of a community is what shapes the culture. So if we don't like what is in the culture, it's not much good talking about the culture, and we see something of what's happening in the culture, say in Canberra, with some of the sexual stuff that's been going on around Parliament, for example. If we don't like that culture, it's not much benefit talking about the detail of that and trying to talk about what do we do about permission and those things. We actually need to go right back to base. What are people's core beliefs that are actually leading to this kind of value system that allows them to do this kind of thing? Now, when I was at university, which was a long time ago, I admit, the focus back in the 70s was about facts. Everything was about facts. What's the scientific evidence? If you projected an idea or posited an idea, can you demonstrate the facts? Are those facts verifiable? And if you could verify them, then you won the argument. That's the way it worked. But now, in this time of wokeness, it's increasingly people's feelings are becoming the dominant source of truth rather than actual facts. And that creates a major problem for the whole thing of gaining knowledge. Because what is knowledge? Knowledge then becomes somebody's feelings, which may be grounded in psychosis, but to them it's real, but where there's no foundation. So we're increasingly living in a culture that's claiming that there is no such thing as absolute or objective truth. And from a logical perspective, that's actually an absurd statement. As I often say to people who say, well, that might be true for you, but that's not true for me. I say, what, you're saying there's no such thing as absolute truth? Yeah, there's absolutely no absolute truth. So what they're really saying is there's no absolute truth other than the absolute truth that there is no absolute truth, which is a logical nonsense. Now, from a logical perspective, such a claim is simply untenable. And yet so much of academia now holds to that. And if you make an absolute truth claim, and that's why Christianity is so frowned upon in our universities, because Christianity makes absolute truth claims, they say, oh, you're oppressing me with your absolute truth claim. So anything that doesn't suit them, you say, well, you're oppressing me with your truth claim. You don't actually have to argue the case anymore. A friend of mine who is a Qantas Airbus pilot, he has to be 100% familiar with the Airbus flight manual. It's a big, big book. The pass mark for the exam, 98%. If you don't get 98%, you fail. Now, I'm sure the people who say, well, that's true for you, not true for me, would they get on an aeroplane where the pilot says, well, this is the flight manual that Airbus put together. That's true for them, but my truth is I've written my own manual over here and I'm going to fly according to what I think is true. Who would get onto the plane with that pilot? I suggest nobody would dare get on that plane, because we actually want the objective, factual truth about the Airbus. We want the pilot to operate according to absolute truth, which they say doesn't exist. But when it comes to flying on airplanes, all of a sudden they do want to believe it. So it just goes to show some of the logical fallacies with which people seem to be happily living. And we see that, for example, also in things such as some of the absurd claims that are made about gender, that gender is entirely a social construct and it's unrelated to a person's biological sex. It beggars belief to me, as a person who has a background in agriculture and I know a little bit about male and female and bulls and cows, that with human beings, somehow all of a sudden sex and gender are totally unrelated. Yet we know that there are over 6,500 differences on the chromosomes between men and women. We know that some medicines are metabolized very differently in female bodies than in male bodies. And yet there's so many people that sprout forth this nonsense that gender and biological sex are unrelated. And when we ignore reality, it comes at enormous cost to society. And we're seeing this more and more. And as our society is drifting away more and more from its Christian foundations, we're seeing, for example, a massive increase in mental health issues among our young people. I went to a primary school in the northern suburbs of Hobart, a lower working class area, when my parents migrated from Germany in the 1960s, and I didn't know any kid who suffered depression. We were just kids, and we just got on with life. I went to the biggest state high school in Tasmania in the late 60s. I never heard of any young person committing suicide. That was just totally outside of our realm of understanding. It just wasn't happening. Why? See, when we don't live according to reality, if we keep teaching that we're simply the product of random chemical reactions billions of years ago, life cannot have meaning. And then if life cannot have meaning, why should we be surprised when people think, hey, life is getting a bit hard, I'll bail out? We shouldn't be surprised. It's actually a logical consequence. As I said earlier, ideas have consequences. And so often people don't think through what the consequences, long-term consequences are of the ideas that they try and foist on society. So as our society continues to drift away from its Christian foundations, we're seeing all these kinds of problems. And I would put to you that no amount of government funding will actually overcome the mental health crisis in our nation. Because until our young people are taught again that life has value, that there is a spiritual dimension to life, they will continue to struggle because they're being denied a picture of reality. See, if we embrace reality, there are so many benefits. In fact, I was on a policy committee with a Muslim person in the days when I was a member of state parliament, and this Muslim guy, very intelligent guy, got about 3 or 4 master's degrees and very intelligent fellow, he came up to me one time and he said, Peter, after the meeting, he said, Peter, when I look around the world, I see that those countries that are most based on Christian biblical principles, they're the countries that have given their people the greatest amount of economic prosperity and the greatest amount of personal freedom. Why do you think that is? I thought that's interesting coming from a Muslim, saying that to me, knowing that I was a Christian. He knew I'd been a pastor and all of that. And I said to him, it's really quite simple. When you accept reality, when you accept that God is the creator of all things, and if you accept his instructions, things work an awful lot better. And I said to him that I remember the first time I ever bought a new car, a brand new car, and the salesman, when I picked it up, he showed me some of the things, how cruise control and all those things. And then he said, and by the way, he said, when everything else fails, try opening the glove box, because there's an instruction manual in there. And when all else fails, try reading the instructions. And that's so much what's happening. God has given us an instruction manual, if you like, for living on this earth, and yet it's being increasingly shunned. And the result is that we suffer unnecessarily because of it. And if there's one thing that I want to urge all of you to do as new graduates, is to think about what are the core beliefs that you've actually embraced? What are the foundations on which you are going to build your life as you move forward? See, if we ignore the truth claims in the Bible, we're actually missing out on something. And I'd encourage you to take those claims very seriously. Now, Jesus Christ said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And of all the knowledge that I've gained over the years from doing my tertiary studies, from working, raising a family, serving in Parliament, and so on, the most valuable knowledge that I've gained is actually from the Bible. Namely that despite my shortcomings, that I've actually been reconciled to God because of what Jesus Christ accomplished by his life, his death, his resurrection, and being taken up into heaven. You know, life can deal you many different blows. But as the psalmist puts it, he lifted me up out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet upon a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. And that's very much the story of my life. That's, you know, you get knocks in life, that's inevitable. But if you're standing on solid rock, hey, you can keep your balance. Things won't throw you over. And I trust that the things that you've learned at Sheridan College over the years that you've studied here will stay with you throughout the journey of your lives. But I'd also want to ask you, or say to you, remember that the most valuable knowledge that you can gain is actually to know Jesus Christ and to accept him as your Saviour and as your Lord, the one who guides you through life. And remember that the core beliefs that you hold, the foundation on which you build your life, that will actually determine the quality of the superstructure that you're actually going to build. So congratulations again on graduation, and I wish you every blessing for the next chapter of your lives. Thank you.
think about. If that's raised any questions or thoughts with anyone who's here this evening, Peter, will you be here for a little while afterwards? Come and make yourself known to Peter. I'm sure he'd love to have a chat with you. Just now, it's my privilege to invite Crosby Chang to come and share a musical item with us. Dr. Crosby has been with us for pretty much 12 months. Am I right, Crosby? I think we've passed the 12-month mark, thereabouts. And I've only just found out what a fabulous musician he is. So would you please enjoy the song, It Is Well With My Soul. Thank you.
So the song It Is Well With My Soul. Let me just mention some background about this song. This song was written by Horatio Spafford in the 1800s. So the man, he's a Christian businessman, and so he's like the real life Job in the story, one of the Old Testament characters of the Bible. So just like Job, like he started off as quite well off, a rich businessman. He had everything in life. He had wealth. He had family, and then over time, just like things just like strikes. He just experienced disaster after disaster. Like there was a fire and his business burned down, and then 2 of his daughters died in a shipwreck. So and yet through all that trials that he faced, like he could still write a beautiful hymn as this, because even though he has faced all these trials, like he still hope in God, hope in his Lord Jesus Christ. He's the solid rock on which he stands, and so through this song, he poured out his soul that it is well, and then he just basically is a declaration that God is the source of his peace, and he has hope in him, even though he's going through all these difficult trials. So as I sing this song, may you also be inspired through the lyrics as well. When peace like a river attended my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my Lord, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. My sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious song. My sin, not in part, but the whole, was nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. is well, it is well with my soul. Oh Lord, haste the day when my faith shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Thank you.
Have help again, please, with moving the microphone. Thank you. We come now to the part of the evening where we're going to be making some awards. And this evening we are distributing a number of different awards. The first award that we're giving is for 4 students who have qualified to be on something we call the Dean's List. This means they have passed all the units studied in the 2020 academic year, tick, and achieved a grade of not less than distinction in at least 6 of the units they have completed. In an academic year, you would generally do 8, and so in 6 of them at least, they have achieved a distinction, which is a high score. I'd like to invite the Dean's List recipients, please, to now stand and come to the front, along with Professors Gabriel Ogunmokin, who's the head of the Faculty of Business, and Professor Augusto Zimmerman, who's the head of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and I'm going to add, and Law. And they are going to be presenting the certificates. Thank you.
Well, it is a tremendous privilege and honor to introduce as the recipient of the award, the Dean List Award, for the accomplishments of 2 of our students in the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. I would like to introduce and present these awards first to Mr. Jackson Black. I'd like to present the Dean's List Award to a second student in the Faculty of Social Sciences or Humanities and Social Sciences, Mrs. Gillian Bretto.
It is my pleasure to present the Dean's List Award for the Faculty of Business to Taylor Nguyen. Sukhpreet Kaur.
Really well deserved. So proud of these students, as we are of all of our students. Some of these students have already been on the Dean's List, so that's an even more impressive feat. We have another award, which is the Early Researcher Award, and the person who is being awarded this one sadly was not able to join us this evening. But Gabriel, would you like to say a few words about the actual award, or do you want me to read? Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Sepi Makala fulfilled the necessary research publication requirements to receive the Dean's Early Researcher of the Year Award for 2019 for the Sheridan Institute of Higher Education, Faculty of Business. In addition to the certificate, Dr. Makala will also receive an award of $400. The award is sponsored by the Academy of World Business, Marketing and Management Development. Dr. Natalie Letao will be collecting the award on behalf of Dr. Makara, because Dr. Makara will be moving to Queensland and she's busy packing. So that's why she couldn't come.
Just checking I didn't take the $400 out.
She will never do that. So the certificate looks like this. And this is the money.
Thank you, and I did talk to Dr. Makara and said that we would be remembering her this evening when we made the announcement. She's worked very hard for that. Professor Gabriel, is that an award that is still ongoing if we had any other faculty members who are keen to get publishing or continue their publishing? Yeah, just for the Faculty of Business. So humanities staff don't even think about switching. Maybe we can see if there's something equivalent for the humanities staff. Perhaps this is a reminder too to our students that even as educators, as was mentioned earlier by Peter as well, the whole bit about lifelong learning, it doesn't stop. We're still researching, learning, and it's nice to have some incentives along the way. So thank you, Professor Gabriel, for that. Shortly, we are going to make presentations to our 2020 cohort of graduating students. But first, we're going to hear from one of our graduands, Mr. Guillermo Mena Guerrero. How did I go, Memo? Memo, would you please come and deliver the graduate speech? Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank everyone from Sheridan. Obviously, without you guys, we wouldn't be here, and that's pretty. I really appreciate that from all of you. And also, next, I would like to congratulate all the graduates as well as me. Tonight, we're having a really good night. I might not know all of you personally, but we definitely have something in common now, and it was we have already succeeded, and it's like we did it. We finished this. We did it, and that's great. It could have been probably difficult sometimes, but I'm sure that you, as well as I, we all enjoyed this. It was for some of you 2 years, in my case only 1 year, but a really enjoyable year. And that's bring satisfaction to all of us, I think. Personally, it does. And that satisfaction is not only for we all sit here on front, but also for family and friends present. So I can just see really happy faces from here, and everyone looks really excited. So that's what we wanted since the beginning, I guess. So one morning, I'm talking about probably 4 weeks ago, I don't know, I got a phone call from Sheridan, and I thought I was in trouble. And let me tell you, I am in trouble now. So. But no, it was a phone call from Darren and telling me they wanted to invite me to this speech, and of course I accepted. I was really excited at the moment, not now. No, I mean now I'm only nervous, but still okay, right? And I accepted the invitation. I accepted the invitation because I realized it was such a great honor to represent the class of 2020 tonight. So I just say yes. And then, well, no longer after that, probably 2 minutes after that, I just started thinking about what I was going to say, what to tell you guys about the graduates. What's I don't know, it was hard. And what advice should I give you? Sorry. No, just got my water here. I'm okay now. Some of my first ideas were, giving recommendations about what to do in the next 6 months or 12 months, if I had the answer, right? But obviously, I don't know. It's difficult to give an advice, and yes, I don't have the answer, of course. And after I don't know, a couple of attempts and days and attempts to get this done, and I realized that, well, first of all, we probably don't share the same vision or expectations about the future. And secondly, as we have experience already since last year, it's hard to give an advice right now. I remember I was in a lunch room in Sheridan. I clearly remember Professor Gabriel was there and Professor Kumar was there. And we're talking about, I don't know, the situation at the moment, which was March last year. So if you remember, it was COVID was starting and coming to Australia. And they said, we cannot even give advice on the next 6 years. And at that moment, we were talking about businesses and economic and that stuff that I pretend I knew about it, but right. But that also applies for personal life. We don't really know what's going to happen in 6 months. I probably know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have to go to the office, but not 6 months or 12 months. That's why it was difficult to write this, right? So, well, so after that, I really thought to myself, like, is there actually something useful I can say to all the graduates tonight? And fortunately, the answer was yes. So yeah, we can also say something useful. Probably the best advice I can give is talk about previous experiences, experiences that have helped me before, and like, I don't know, like in my case, you know, to family, friend, like something professional, personal, but experiences that have helped. In my case, there's three recommendations I'm going to mention, because, yeah, I think 3 is enough. It's a good number. The first one is just make sure you create good relationships and networking. That's really important for me. Second point will be, and some of you, like Mr. Peter already mentioned, just keep learning, just get knowledge. And the third one is definitely share that knowledge. Those 3 advices, or those 3 recommendations, I'm pretty sure they're going to give you like satisfaction in the future. If I'm going to talk, well, about creating strong relationships and networking, we all know that networking and you know, professional relationships are really important. They can get you new job, better job, or different things. But in my case, I'm going to talk about those relationships that almost like friendship, and how they can help you to have good things in the future. If you think about it, well, we don't really know who is in front of me, and maybe they can help me in 2 months or whatever. And this experience is about my dad. A few years ago, I'll say maybe 10 years ago, I met a bunch of guys, just like kind of networking thing. At the end, they couldn't help me a lot because they all were doctors, different, you know, like oncologists, I don't know, like different kind of doctors. But we became friends with some of them, and I'm still really good friend with them. And I think it was 4 years ago, I don't remember well, and that's a shame. My dad was diagnosed with cancer, and it was shock. I was in shock because I was here in Australia, and they were back home in Mexico. So it was really difficult for me to, you know, say something nice to my family, or even obviously my dad. Well, I managed to do that, but the story is about one day one of these friends called me. I didn't say anything to anyone about my dad's situation, like, you know, but they knew about it. And he said, like, hey Memo, I know the situation with your dad, so I want to help you because we are friends, and so just bring it to my office or the hospital, and I'm gonna look after him and with no charge at all during all the treatment. And that was really powerful for me. And for me, professional relationships and close friendship, it's really important. They have probably, I'm not sure if the same importance, but try to make friends, try to become friends with everyone you know, because at the end you never know what you can get from them. And yeah, yeah, that was a personal aspect in my life where relationships helped, but it also helped. We have many stories about professional life and how someone helped me to get a job, and you know. But I wanted to share that story because I think it's really powerful. The second point is keep learning. I already said that, but as Mr. Peter said before, we always learn. We need to make sure we are always learning all the time and getting knowledge, new knowledge, and diversify our knowledge. It's probably obvious that, well, learning gives you, I would say, like tools to improve and to improve your life, and we only need some experience, professional experience, to enhance that. Sorry, my accent. that what we have learned, but yeah, it's like, but learning improves obviously your life. And I was thinking about what to say about this, about learning, keep learning, but then when I started looking at options to study last year, I went through the portal, Sheridan portal, and I read something really interesting, and I'm going to read it because I don't remember it. So it's the college core purpose of Sheridan, and that's to offer higher education to those who are seeking to live an extraordinary life. To this end, the college will inspire its students to love truth, seek wisdom, embrace innovation, and become instruments of peace in the world. And I think that's really nice, isn't it? And I think that matches our purpose to study in Sheridan. But probably my advice here is learn from everyone or anyone, but you can learn. You can have, you can learn from everyone here, literally. And they all have something to show us, something to offer us. And just keep learning all the time. We are lucky to be here also in a really multicultural place where we have friends or we have people here from different countries, different languages, different faith, different everything. So we can use that to really make our life, like, to get more knowledge and make our lives easier. So for me, that's the purpose of knowledge. And as I mentioned as well, like share knowledge. That will be the third recommendation. And I would say that this is for me the most important task or responsibility of every professional person in like anywhere. And I would just say, like, what is the knowledge for if not to be shared? So we have professors, we have teachers, we have lecturers, and that's their life, and they understood this already. And one thing I can say about this, when I started my first job, after a couple of months, or I don't know, some time, I've heard my boss talking to the big boss. I don't exactly remember what the conversation was about, but at some point my boss tell the big boss, like, I'm just preparing a memo, and the rest of the guys take over my place. And that was really interesting for me. And I applied that after that every time of my life, like in any job, everything I've done, I've been helping someone else or teaching someone else to just take over my place, because I think that's really important and that's really interesting. And I did, and also back home a couple of years ago, before coming to Australia, I was working as a manager in one of the company in Mexico, and I was applying this concept to share the knowledge, to teach everything to them, to be able to take over my place. And a couple of times being here, two of them reached me by phone, and one of them phone call and the other one by email. But just saying like, Memo, thank you for everything you teach me or you share with me, because that helped me to get a better job. And it's not only about technical knowledge, but it's also about more soft skills, I'll say, more like how to interact with people, how to treat people, how to just how to be a better person. And apparently that helped them. So I feel really great about that when they told me. So I already talked about relationships, learning and sharing as my three advices or my three recommendations. And so now I just want to tell you guys, like, now it's time to show the world what we have learned, to show the new us, like, we're a better person now, to be proud of ourselves as well. We have done a lot of things and really difficult things. Just go there and try, just try everything. And if you fail, don't worry. Failing, it's another way to learn. And some people say like, the teacher has failed more times than the student has tried. And you think about it, it's true. It's just, we just got here, and we're about to start our professional life. The world can be scary for all of us, maybe. But I have asked sometimes to me, like, what would I do if I have no fears? And then after that question is, the answer is, well, the possibilities are endless. Everything is possible if you have no fears, if you try, if you just go there and kick everyone, right? So try, and if somehow you get stuck or you struggle with life, with professional life, with something, just find piece of, like, inspiration or motivation. That helps a lot. I have my motivation. She just turned 8 2 days ago, and it's Regina, my daughter. She's in Mexico, and it's hard, but every time I struggle with something, her beautiful smile comes to my mind, and I just keep going. And that helps a lot. It's motivation, and try to find something that helps you. My final reflection probably will be, so all the graduates and everyone here, don't let your story get lost without having transcended. It's really important for me. So be loud, be proud, make the difference everywhere. And don't let them forget about you. That's important. Thank you.
Thank you for your words of encouragement, Memo. Now we come to the part of the program where we present our graduating students with their awards. This is the last part of our program. So would the graduands please move to the front? And Matilda, I'm going to ask if I may have your assistants off to the side, just to check that jackets are straight and gowns are tidy and hoods are as they need to be. Thank you. Tonight, all of our graduands are from the Faculty of Business. So I'm inviting Professor Gabriel, our Head of Faculty of Business, to come up again. Thank you, Gabriel. And the Executive Chair of the Board of Directors, Mr. Mike Smith, who's going to present the awards. Thank you very much.
It is my pleasure again to present the graduating students for the award of Diploma of Business. Nomalanga Maungu. It is my pleasure to present the graduating students for the award Bachelor of Business. Sheridan Singh Dion. Miak Junija. Atprit Kaur. Priyanka Krishna Kumar. Fan Yen Lam.
Sorry, okay, apologies. She's in Canberra.
Okay, we understand.
I still wanted to mention her name and wish her well, so please accept her.
Jignesh Kumar Patel.
Also unable to be here this evening, but a very hard-working student, and we give him both.
Mugresh Patel. Navdeep Kaur Saota. Diane da Silva Vieira. Lechi On Yen. It is my pleasure to present the graduating student for the award of Graduate Diploma of Business. Guillermo Mina Geramo.
The graduating students are going to hold that pose for just a moment. Professor Gabriel, could you please stand next to Memo? That would be lovely. And thank you to you and to Mike for the presentations. I'm going to invite the graduating students to please get ready to turn your tassels. Are you ready? All right, from the left, no, from the right, just checking, to the left. This is a symbol that they have now graduated. Can we please give them another round of applause? So officially, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to present to you the graduating students of Sheridan for 2020. Thank you. All right, paparazzi, go for it. Thank you. As you take your seats, I just want to add my congratulations to you all. Feel free to take your seats. I also, students, want to remind you that just because you have finished a degree doesn't mean we never want to see you again. I love it when students keep in touch. In fact, I had a text from one of our graduating students today. She had her ceremony last October and we still keep in touch. She's one of a few. Other staff who are here would also attest to conversations they have with our graduating students. Keep in touch with us. You will always be a part of the Sheridan family. In fact, I've heard a whisper that some of you might be coming back sooner than anyone thought. We will be very happy to welcome you to do further study with us if that is the path that you are choosing. But I want you to know that whatever venture you go on to next, for some of you, you are staying on living in Australia. For some, you may be planning to return home to countries that you may have come from. Some are doing further studies. Some are involved in employment. I want you to know that Sheridan is always a place where you'll be welcome. It's a place where you belong. So please keep in touch with us. Share your stories with us. We wish you well. And to conclude the proceedings, we are going to have the staff sing you a song as our gift to you. So just before we do that, I'm inviting the Sheridan faculty please to make your way to the front. We're going to perform a song called Amazing Grace. You will find the words in your program this evening. The words of the song might be familiar to you, and we hope that the song will encourage you as you continue along life's journey. to now stand. We're going to have something called the recessional. And once the faculty and the graduating students have moved out, our guests are invited to follow us out to the cafe area where refreshments will be served. Thank you again for being here this evening, and to those who may be watching from afar, and I'm not sure if a recording's being organised, but we hope to be able to share this with people who are not here this evening. And if you haven't yet had an opportunity to have your photograph taken, please come and see Glenn. He's right here with the camera. Thank you.
Thank